And we begin tonight with just 5 days left until we find out what kind of country we will be. As of today, over 61 million Americans have voted, and 54% of them are women. 5 days out, the choice is crystal clear. It's an America for all, fueled by a coalition of many fighting yet again for equal rights.
I'm a little frustrated that some of us are choosing to ignore Donald Trump's gross incompetence while asking Kamala to dazzle us at every turn. Let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. Are you as men prepared to look into the eyes of the women and children you love and tell them that you supported this assault on our safety?
Or an America for some, fueled by a coalition of the few, pushing for separate but equal. The former First Lady's message is a powerful one and continues to course through the veins of this country since the Supreme Court has stripped half of America of our constitutional rights. This America has been about dignity for all, but that clearly is too much for the MAGA misogyny minions who have been repulsed by even the thought of women. And by this, I mean the group long venerated and placed on a pedestal for the clear purpose of silencing their voices. I do mean white women. Finally finding their voice and asserting their independence and their power, and joining women of color in rejecting the politics of the increasingly extreme Republican Party. On that note, know what is also triggering the MAGA man cave? A progressive evangelical group urging the partners of male Trump supporters to vote for Kamala Harris, even if it has to be done in secret.
In the one place in America where women still have a right to choose, you can vote any way you want. And no one will ever know.
Did you make the right choice?
Sure did, honey.
Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth.
Let me just tell you, the MAGA right hates this idea. They are literally disgusted and freaking out about it. One conservative pastor's very telling tweet, which has gone viral, sums it up. He writes, "In a Christian marriage, a wife should vote according to her husband's direction. He is the head, and they are one." Two Trump MAGA men, put that in scare quotes, Fox's Jesse Waters and Charlie Kirk of Turning Point, were equally triggered by the idea of married women thinking for themselves.
I find that entire advertising campaign so repulsive. She's coming in with her sweet husband, who probably works his tail off to make sure that she can go, and have a nice life and provides for the family. And then she lies to him saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to vote for Trump. And then she votes for Kamala Harris as her little secret.
If I found out Emma was going into the voting booth and pulling the lever for Harris, that's the same thing as having an affair. That violates the sanctity of our marriage.
This idea that women need to be told what to do, how to think, how to look, and how to behave is a key closing argument for the most recognizable misogynist and jury-convicted sexual abuser, Donald Trump.
I'm president. I want to protect the women of our country. They said. They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say, pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them.
Whether they like it or not. So to sum it up, according to J.D. Vance, women who don't marry and have children are worthless and shouldn't have equal rights in this society. And the women who do are nothing more than amplifications of their husband's Republican votes. Anything else is unnatural. And Donald Trump says, and adds, he's going to protect women whether they like it or not. Okay, this open disdain for women and their independence is far more disturbing when you think about the fact that the man saying these things, that the head of that ticket, is in clear cognitive decline. This was Trump in 2016. And then let's look at Trump on Tuesday.
The U.S. has become a dumping ground for everybody else's problems.
So I just want to tell you, this is a campaign that's been long and hard.
The man who descended his golden escalator is now being escorted by aides to make sure he doesn't fall after having trouble grasping the door handle of a garbage truck. His own staff acknowledges that the septuagenarian is exhausted and struggling to find the energy he had almost 10 years ago. Earlier this week, the Las Vegas Sun went where few have been willing to go, acknowledging that Trump's cognitive decline and mental illness is a threat to democracy. Members of the editorial board wrote, "The nation must confront the fact that beyond his hateful character, he is crippled cognitively and showing clear signs of mental illness. When he does appear publicly, Trump struggles to complete sentences or sustain coherent thoughts and has shown a pronounced difficulty concentrating and a tendency to repeat himself, sometimes within the same sentence. For those who believe in a country governed by checks, balances, and the rule of law, a return to Trumpian leadership is dangerous in its own right. But to do so with an impaired leader who cannot govern competently and a fellow authoritarian waiting in the wings is perilous." Joining me now is Sarah Matthews, former deputy press secretary in the Trump White House, and David Rothkopf, columnist for the Daily Beast and host of the Deep State Radio podcast. Sarah, I want to start with you first because you've worked for Donald Trump. Do you see the cognitive decline that the Las Vegas Sun sees?
I think I do. You look at the videos of him in 2016 and compare it to now, and it does appear like he's lost his fastball. I mean, no one would ever say that Donald Trump has been the most eloquent speaker, but I do think that if you go back and watch those old videos of him, and compare it to now, it's just so apparently clear to me. And he is rambling more incoherent, can't stay on message. And so it does appear to me that there's a cognitive decline there. And I think voters need to ask themselves, this was obviously such an issue for Biden's candidacy. So why doesn't that translate for Trump then? Biden, I think he was all there in his mind, but his age was shown a little bit more in his physicality. But with Trump, it's mental. And so that we really need to ask ourselves if we want to put a man like that back into the Oval Office.
Indeed. Let me play what Vice President Harris had to say. And she was commenting, and she wasn't commenting on the cognitive decline, which I want you to weigh in on too, David. But she was commenting on his thoughts about whether women like it or not.
He will do what he wants, quote, and here's where I'm going to quote, whether the women like it or not. You know, there's a saying that you got to listen to people when they tell you who they are. And this is not the first time he has told us who he is. He does not believe women should have the agency and authority to make decisions about their own bodies.
One of the things that happens, David, as some people age, and it's just a fact of aging, is that your inhibitions start to slide, right? Particularly if your cognition starts to slide. And so Donald Trump is showing some of that lack of inhibition. But even when he was younger and in full faculties, he grabbed E. Jean Carroll in a public place, and whether she liked it or not, and she did not. He has kissed women against their will and without them allowing him to, whether they liked it or not. He has put his hands between women's legs, whether they liked it or not. So even when he was in full faculties, he was a predator. And so you have someone like that now saying, because he can't help himself anymore, that I'm going to, quote unquote, protect women whether they like it or not. This, to me, strikes me as a dangerous place for him to be going when you throw in the fact that he can't climb into a garbage truck without nearly tripping and falling, and he couldn't even grasp that door handle. What are we watching?
Well, you're 100% right, because he's on the fast track to feebleness. But quite apart from being on the fast track to feebleness, when he had his fastball, he behaved this way. And that's because it's not an issue necessarily of mental capacity. It's an issue of character, and it's an issue of ideology. He does not look at women as his equal. And so when he was young and fit, he was abusing women. Scores of women have accused him of abusing them. A judge who adjudicated the case that you just made reference to said that he was effectively guilty of rape. He was much more in command of his faculties when, as president, he stripped away the fundamental right of women to control their own bodies. So throughout his entire life, his view has been towards women, I will do with them what I want to, because he is of a group that believes that women are subservient to men, are the possessions of men, and they don't be misled. They don't want to turn the clock back to the 1950s. They want to turn it back to the 1850s. They want to turn it back to a world where women did not have the vote. Remember, what did J.D. Vance say? He said, if a woman does not give birth to children, she shouldn't have the right to vote. It's would be shocking, except that they've said it over and over and done it over and over again. But I think here, finally, in the last 5 days of this election, we're seeing that this is breaking through, and it's showing up in women's early registration, women's early voting, this huge gender gap, 55-45 gender gap out of the 30 million votes that have already been cast. And it's quite possible that women are ultimately going to say, we know what we want. And it's not you, Donald Trump.